Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Spoiled Rotten.
With Ban.
And me, Daniel.
On that shelf.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks off, but we got that one.
Pew, pew, pew. Oh, we're in a flow right now. It's good.
Excellent. So, if you did not know, this is a podcast where we talk about comic book movies or just popular stuff in general.
Yeah.
Usually
Whatever
comic
we feel
book
like
movies.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we spoil or review a movie at the end or a TV show.
Because we highly believe that there's no point in doing spoiler-free reviews. It's just a pointless game to play.
And it is a game.
And
All
plus, we are releasing this Mondays, so like, you had the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's some safe.
This is for the fans, is basically what we're getting
Yeah,
at
this
here.
is for the people that want to have some hardcore discussions and tweet back at us or whatever you do on the social internet thing, and be like, "Yo, I think you're wrong and are off base because of this." And,
Exactly.
those are greatly appreciated because we like those discussions.
All right, here we go. First thing we're going to talk about is the Joker trailer, if my memory serves.
Yes, we are talking about the Joker trailer. So, a long-awaited trailer for this movie because we wanted to all. Well, you and I wanted to be a little bit more objective about it because we realized we were being really, really biased towards this movie and being like, "Whoa, I can't work without this and this and all that kind of stuff." And we're just like, at some point, I was like, I'm gonna pull back and be like, I want to see the first footage first and see what the tone is, what it's like, and all that kind of stuff. And what were your thoughts?
I still maintain that it's a bad idea, but it still looks good. It looks interesting, but I mean, obviously, there's elements. Well, there's the Scorsese connection, right? And I really like Scorsese films, so there's like elements of obviously King of Comedy.
Yep.
There's
the
Taxi Driver.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a couple of others in there. With obviously the idea that they might be doing a version of The Killing Joke, just showing him having a really bad day and going all the way over.
Yes.
So those are big influences in my life. Not, I mean, in most people's lives, just because even if you haven't read the comic Killing Joke, most Joker takes are based off of Killing. So like I guess even not Jack Nicholson pretty much. I don't know if that was his thing. But Heath Ledger, like most famously, that's his whole thing is I just need to push you because everyone just needs one bad day and they'll be like me. So like that's the DNA of the Killing Joke storyline, and it looks like they're going there with this. Obviously, with King of Comedy, the idea that there's this comedian who kidnaps a show host, being like, "Give me a spot on your show."
Yes,
it's a really good movie. It's one of very few non-rated R Martin Scorsese films. I think it's PG.
Really?
Yeah, it's very menacing, but it is not rated R.
I never really looked at the rating for that movie. But
yeah, so that stars Robert De Niro. Well, most Scorsese films from a certain period star De Niro, and De Niro is in this as what I assume is like the talk show host version, the equivalent.
Yes.
In this, I was glad to see Brian Tyree Henry in there. That's nice. Obviously, always like seeing Zazie Beetz, but we knew she was in it. I didn't know Brian Tyree was in it. Frances McDormand. No, not McDormand. Yikes. What's her name? She's from 6 Feet Under. She was the mom in 6 Feet Under, and she's the mom of the Joker in this.
Yeah, I think of her more as
Conroy?
The mom of Barney Stinson, because it's funnier that way.
Right, Frances Conroy. Yes,
like,
I do remember that.
Yeah.
How to get away with murder. How I Met Your Mother. Yes, that is right.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are people in this movie. There's a lot of like haunting imagery in this, which I like.
Oh my God,
when he's forcing himself to smile and he's tearing up.
Yep.
Just anytime he gets beat up is very upsetting.
Oh my God, I think what I'm gonna do is completely remove all attachment to the Batman universe.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I have to do that for this movie and just look at it as a character study and be like, okay, whatever.
But they are really going to connect it because the guy talking about Coward in a Mask is Thomas Wayne, and the kid that he made smile is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So we won't be able to divorce it.
We won't be able to. It's just going to be weird how it ties into it all.
I mean, that part I'm not worried about. They're not. This isn't trying to tie into anything.
No.
This is just its own story.
Yeah.
Just the way.
But I feel like at some point, the Matt Reeves one being so close in timing to this.
You don't have to worry about that. It's not going to be.
I still do. I still
Stop.
do. And
Don't do it.
Don't
do it
I
to yourself.
worry about the people at DC being like, you know what, we could try again.
But this movie, in its inception, has always been separate, and I
Yes.
think the Matt Reeves thing will be separate. I don't think.
We can only hope.
I just don't think you need to worry yourself about
No,
that. It's
you know
there's
why I'm
enough to
worried?
stress about in life.
You're
Just take them
absolutely
at
right.
face value on this one.
But this
They're
is
not
one
connected.
of those fun stressors in the sense where I like stressing about it because it's just like it gives me a lot of fluff to think about.
Fair enough.
In this, because my concern about this is, what if it's good and they want Joaquin Phoenix's Joker to be
Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin, I can never. we know
Yeah.
Mr. Phoenix.
Yeah.
His
want
iteration of the
Arthur
Joker
Fleck.
to tie in with the Matt Reeves one, the Batman.
It-
That's my concern.
right, but it won't because of their time differences.
We say that.
So if this is in the 80s and they're saying the Matt Reeves one is in the 90s, then you don't have to worry. It's not gonna. It's not gonna tie.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not gonna tie. But
Let's hope.
I guess if you want to worry about that,
Oh,
I
I'm
can't
totally
stop
worried
you.
about that. Totally
But
worried about
it doesn't make sense based on the information given.
True.
So that is good. There's a very earnest take on the Joker.
Yes.
It doesn't seem.
It's very humane, and it like within that 2.5.
Well,
minute
I wouldn't
footage,
say it looks humane. It does look weird. Like it looks overly aggressive. Like
No, it's
that those
humane
men
in the
beat him
sense
up on
where-
the subway, or like
No, it's-
after I'm assuming he gets beat up in the street. It's like, all right,
It's humane to me in the sense where it's like, no, they're really pushing the character of the Joker to be a human first before he becomes the Joker.
right.
in the sense
and I don't
where-
even know how human he will be before that. If they are going the taxi driver,
Yeah.
King of Comedy route,
Right.
those are famously about people who are not
Not
operating like everybody else.
Yeah.
They are outsiders. They don't see the social cues that everyone else does.
Right.
So I mean that part I don't know about. I understand what you're getting at, but
Yeah.
I do think it will be elevated and not as.
Oh,
it
no.
does look very. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Like it looks like fantastical. Like it doesn't look like a real. Like it looks like, oh, that looks like the 80s New York. But what I'm
Yes.
saying is the scenery we're seeing is very dreamlike. It doesn't feel like it's grounded in true reality. So it does have that element going for it, much like those other movies that I feel are the main influences.
Right, and
Where, like-
and we're going to talk more about this podcast where we talk about the Shazam review when we talk about that in a little bit, like the past and realities and perceptions and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for this, it seems to me that they're really, really, and they said they were going to do this, but I feel like they're going to do a good job of doing the character study. Of this thing.
Yeah.
They're like the idea
They've got
that
good
even in the
templates.
trailer, I really like the symbolism of like him in the beginning. One of the first shots in the trailer, him struggling to keep himself together, climbing up the stairs, and then at the end of the trailer, when he's fully the Joker, he's descending into madness and just climbing down the stairs with dancing and really enjoying himself and doing like becoming himself and all that kind of stuff. So like even that symbolism to me is like fantastic. It's like an uphill battle, and then descent into madness is just he gets taxed and gauntlet. And
Well,
all
yeah,
this
the
kind of
idea
stuff.
that he thought it was a
Breaks.
tragedy, but he realizes it's a comedy.
Yeah.
That is all played out through the trailer really
Yeah.
well.
It's a really well done trailer. It sets the bar a little bit higher for me to interpret this as a movie and not a Joker movie, but just a movie. Mm-hmm. That's how I have to look at this. Because the moment I start thinking about, oh, the Batverse, I'm like, I'm going to get angry. I'm sure you would too.
No, I'm done with that.
Oh, you're done. Okay.
I've already
You've moved on.
Yeah,
You've
I
got
understand
more
what's
of a
happening.
Zen state than I have. But
Yeah, I understand what's going on. It's fine.
Fair enough.
I think that all I can do is lean into the appreciation I have for the Scorsese stuff that this looks
Yes.
like it's been based on, and then
That's what made it really
and then be like,
interesting to me.
okay, cool. The Joker's in the middle of those storylines. I don't see why you would want to do that, but
Yep.
it's fine. Like that's,
Yeah.
I will at least enjoy that element of it.
Because when I did see this, I was like, wait, there's a Scorsese feel behind this. This might be really, really good.
Yeah.
I was just really, really happy about that. Anyways,
Well,
So there's that. That's the
There's
first
that.
trailer. Let us know what you think, of course. The next trailer that we want to talk about broke world records, multiple,
broke my
and
sanity.
sales records, and yes, it caused us a good amount of stress. So the trailer is highlighting a lot of the scenes that got broken apart from a shareholder kind of viewing, and the reports came out of what that viewing was. And it was that scene where Thor is interacting with Captain Marvel. Apparently, that's right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is, it makes perfect sense because we had that Captain Marvel's teaser stinger where she's already met up with the team. Why would we not pick up from there?
Yep.
So apparently it opens off with like a debate, like, oh, we should go after Thanos and all that kind of stuff. And then Captain Marvel being all cocky is like, well, you have
didn't
me
have
this
me.
time.
Yeah.
You didn't have me. Like, we did that before. Why? Like, so apparently that whole debate that's being heavily featured, that's within the first like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
That's been screened. And then what happens is they... well, Thor obviously likes Captain Marvel, but Captain Marvel runs off and does her own thing. Now, my biggest concern with that is that she comes back with a whole bunch of other heroes that, like, specifically.
I didn't hear that she goes off and does her own thing. I think the
I
next
heard
shot is what we see is that
Right.
she's driving the Benatar.
Oh,
And
right,
they're,
right.
They're going off. I didn't hear because CinemaCon just happened, right? So
Right.
they
Yeah.
showed even more
Right.
from the snippets you're talking about.
Right.
And so in the full context, she doesn't run off and do her own thing.
Oh,
Basically, the whole thing is
I guess they break off into different
War
teams again.
Machine is like, what? Who are you even? Like, I think he calls her, "Hey, new girl, where have you been?" And she's like, "Well, other planets don't have you guys, so I've been off doing that stuff." Basically, the explanation they were giving in the press
Yep.
of why she wasn't around before. Yeah, also always made sense,
Yeah.
especially after you see the movie.
Yeah.
But so basically, that's when they're like, I think that's the whole like, we owe it to the people we lost to try this because,
Yep.
and then the big like battle cry is Captain America being like, "Yeah, let's go get this son of a bitch."
Yep.
So it isn't like she runs off and does her own thing. It's like the de facto leader being like, "Yeah, okay, sure, let's go do this."
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So all of that, but that's not in the footage we saw. That's
No,
but like,
and you know what's weird about the footage that we see? I love the Hawkeye Ronin persona now has gone off the deep end. Is like, no, I'm definitely a Ronin, like a warrior without a
Right.
cause, fighting and just kind of getting to this and all that kind of stuff. And there's rumors about him trying to track down Infinity Stones or something like that, or that, which doesn't make sense because I'm like, well, it's all with Thanos. So it's just like, how are you tracking it down in Japan? I don't understand. But it's one of those. The trailer is very, very tricky because it leads us to overanalyze,
yeah,
and it leads us to make assumptions based on Black Widow's hair, costumes.
yeah.
all
You
that kind
really
of stuff.
got me on board with that because
Yeah,
I
the
was
Black Widow
I
hair
just
thing.
don't care about that kind of stuff. And
Yep.
you were like, "No, look, she's got long hair here. It's grown out. Like
Yep.
the blonde is grown out here." I'm like, yeah, that's just gonna confuse me. So I'm just gonna not care about it until the movie happens.
So then, it begs the question of like, what's the time difference between
Yeah.
this? And of course, it seems like it'd be like a year or something like that, in between where they're. Well, I mean, like in one of the first trailers where like it seems like Captain America's having like this group session, a support of like how to deal with the decimation. So it seems like they've been trying to deal with this, but now that Captain Marvel showing up, it's like, no, wait, we have a trump card now. We have like new information or new resources or whatever. Let's try to go get him.
new
to reverse
blood
this.
at
Yeah.
the very least.
New
But
blood,
I think what I've also heard is that what happens at the end of the trailer, like the main three. I mean,
Thor,
that's the
Cap,
meta
and-
thing of like, technically it is the original six, but
Yes.
the three people who had solo movies walking towards Thanos,
Mm-hmm.
that all is like, it is the first part of the movie because
Right.
the idea is what I was saying the whole time is just because you beat him up doesn't mean you can reverse
Yes.
you just have beat up the guy who was already like, well, I did what I wanted to do, so I'm
Correct.
done. So I think
so
that's
you
what
think
happens
the
is that they
first-
all go gung ho, like beat
Right
him
off
up,
the bat.
and then he's like, "Great, you beat me up.
How do you reverse
this is not this means nothing."
Yeah.
So I do like that there really is like an element of like we just don't know what's going to happen because it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it's leading up to a big showdown with Thanos. Like
You're absolutely
it seems like that, especially now that we know for sure it is 3 hours and a bit. it's like you can afford to be like in the first hour, be like, yeah, that Thanos thing happened. Now we got to actually figure out how to make this better.
Yeah. So it's them doing course correction, which is it's an interesting concept for a movie because we're just so expecting that final showdown, and we might not get it. Or we might get it in a
it's
different-
going to be
very different
something,
way. Yeah.
I would imagine. Although this is supposed to be the last movie, so maybe it will just feel a lot more like tying up.
Now, when you say the
storylines.
last movie, do you mean the last movie in the Infinity Saga?
Yeah, for the Thanos stuff. It's
Yeah.
the last. It's
the
the last
last
Thanos
Phase
movie,
3.
I would imagine.
The last Phase 3 movie. Before they move on to Phase 4, and that's apparently why we're not getting a Spider-Man trailer until after Endgame.
That makes sense
because there's huge spoilers in the next trailer, apparently. So
He's like, well, it's a good thing I was undusted, and people are like, oh, spoiler.
I was just like, what? How did you? Of course. Which is it like with the international trailers and all that kind of stuff. Oh no, not international trailers, international posters. I really like the international posters, especially the Chinese one, where there's like the dark silhouettes of all the decimated characters, and then there's an even I think a Japanese one where it's like their actual faces, but they're like whatever, and it's just like it's really really cool. Like I like the idea that they're not trying to dupe us anymore. Like no, these guys are coming back. It's just you don't know who's going to actually stay dead.
Although I did see at CinemaCon, someone was talking to Chadwick Boseman, and they were like, "Hey, like it's really cool that like people wanted to see the movie so much that sites were like crashed." He's like, "Yeah, but I'm dead," and she's like, "Well, yeah, like for now." He's like, "I'm dead."
Yeah.
He's like, she's like, "Oh, because you don't want to spoil stuff." He's like, I have nothing to spoil. I'm dead." And they're like, and she's like, "No, we don't want you to be dead." He's like, "But I am. I'm dead." She's like, "Well, what about Black Panther 2?" He's like, "I'm dead."
I like how they're just like they're playing that game.
It's really funny to me that
I think
like,
it's really hilarious. You know what really is interesting to me of all those character posters though? That there's a Loki poster.
interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a real one?
Yes, the official Marvel one sheets where the ones that got released, and because you're right, like whether or not it's real, because they started making a lot of meme posters that came out of that using the same kind of layouts and all that kind of stuff in Photoshop. But their Marvel on the website did have a Loki poster, and that's so interesting to me because, of course, well, whether or not the Loki TV show on the streaming service is going to be placed, I assumed it was going to be more like the Asgardian time frame where he's between Thor 2 and 3 or something like that, but now
Or it could all be before Thor.
Exactly, or it could, or now it seems like it could be like after
yeah.
too, which is an interesting concept too, because after this decimation, Loki might be like, well, he's always been walking that fine line between good and bad, but now it means
Only interesting because he wasn't decimated; he just legitimately got killed.
That's exactly it. That's why it's interesting to me. Every other poster is everyone that got decimated. If Heimdall had a poster, I'd be like, "What the hell's going on here?"
I mean, realistically, all they say is avenge the fallen, and they did fall.
Yes,
but I mean, for us, yeah, the implication is these are the dusted people.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't think twice if I saw them. I would just be like, yeah, they did die.
Yeah.
So
I made that inference, and I was like, huh.
Yeah, and I also do like that. There's confirmation that Valkyrie's back because I do like that character.
She's gonna be fun to watch again. There's been speculation about
Not that that's in the trailer; it's in the posters.
It's in the posters.
Sorry.
Yes,
we should make.
Yeah, there's confirmation now that Shuri has been dusted.
Yeah,
because she got one of the
she got one of the
posters. Yeah.
Avenge the Fallen posters,
yeah.
which I didn't think was was in question. As soon as the first trailer showed that she was on the screen of the
well,
people,
it said missing, right?
Yeah, but I just feel like that doesn't mean that like 10 seconds in they'll be like, oh shit, she isn't missing.
But
I feel like,
you're right. Because
I mean, that's why they tie in Ant-Man at the end to be like, yeah, they thought he was missing, but he's here.
But that's why I think the time frame between these two movies it's very, very important, because to me, if the time frame was immediately afterwards, then that picture of Shuri missing makes a lot of sense, because they're like,
yeah, they don't know.
But like,
although actually it wouldn't, because if they came back down, why would they leave Wakanda before figuring out where she is?
Exactly, right? It's like, no, let's do a check and see.
I feel like it would be very easy to be like, either she got killed or she got decimated, because
you'd be able to.
They would at
find
least go to
evidence of it.
her workstation
Exactly,
and be like,
like, where they left her and
Yeah.
like, whatever. So that was that. But we now, as an audience, have confirmation of like Shuri, because that's always been a question mark.
and I guess the idea is that she's so smart that it would be awkward to be like, hey, she'll just figure this out for them. And I
Yes.
think that's what the idea is, that like
Yeah.
you eliminate that,
Because
because she already showed like she's way smarter than
Banner
obviously
and
Banner, because
Stark,
Banner was like, oh, we tried this. She's like, well, you could have just done this, and then
well, we didn't think of
yeah.
that.
Anyway, it sucks because it would have been nice to see her do more stuff, but also
I
there's
think
Black
she's
Panther
going to be
2.
involved in the MCU moving forward for sure, like a lot more. So I just
knows?
don't think she's going to be heavily involved in Endgame.
No, she won't. So yeah, that is what else happens in that. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, we see the Rocket Raccoon outfit
Nebula?
change a couple of times. That I think is a really
That's nice.
That's a really, really good moment to me, and it just brings back moments like, and I love that Batista, Drax kind of thing where like Groot dies the first time in Guardians 1, and then Drax is like comforting him. It's kind of like a throwback to that kind of scene, and I really, really like that. Nebula comforting Rocket, and Rocket's costume changes throughout the whole thing is very, very interesting to me, because of course to set the timelines of where and what happens and to overanalyze everything. The other thing that I really, really liked about this trailer, oh god, I can't believe I forgot about this. I just forgot. No, the Captain America and Iron Man
Handshake.
teaming up again. That handshake. That was
Yeah.
really emotional, because I'm like, you guys broke up in Civil War and now you're back
You
together.
trust me.
That's cute.
A lot of people are saying those are different timeline characters interacting.
Yeah, because they're saying basically that there was one guy that has overanalyzed this so much more. They're like, oh, the Captain America suit in this one scene seems like it's off, so maybe it's just CGI'd on, where it's like we're thinking that this is the new costume. Where
Well, I
it's
think people
reality.
have said compared the initial pictures we saw of
Yeah.
them with the orange dots on themselves, and it looks like it's in the same area that scene takes.
Yes.
Why they would put orange dots on him to just change that suit is weird to me, but maybe it'll make sense when we see them.
I think it's more related to the quantum suits.
Well,
and
no,
maybe the quantum suit
in
for
that
them.
scene they don't have the quantum suits, and
Well, that's
in
why
in
the wrist thing, right?
And in the thing, he's wearing his Avengers
Yes.
suit, whereas he's not in that shot where
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, do you trust me?"
Yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot of. This is obviously this is a movie we have to watch multiple times.
Well, I'm just happy that I don't have a good idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I like that it will be there will be an element of just like, yeah, I can piece together certain things. Like my assumption is everyone will come back at the end of this.
Yes.
But like that still doesn't account for like the other like
How they do it,
Yeah.
or
How
who's
long they'll be
going
in
to-
it for.
if anyone sacrifices, or what actually happens, or anything like that. Whether or not Captain America is done with the franchise.
So I rewatched the
whatever, and-
first
yeah.
Captain America, and I've realized the big through line throughout this whole thing has been like, it's really set up in the first one, because basically when he talks to Red Skull the first time, Red Skull's like, yeah, we've left humanity. Like the fact that this happened to us, we're done. So to me, like the through line is like, how much of that humanity can he maintain being this super being? And like, I watched Age of Ultron again, and he was kind of like, yeah, I really don't think I like want to like live happily ever after, like with a family and like that kind of stuff. I think that guy went into the ice, and then I came out different.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like it will be interesting to see like what happens to him, because I think there is an element of like he would gladly just die for this, and it wouldn't to me feel like some kind of sacrifice. It would just be like, oh, I guess that's
an
what he's been
appropriate
trying to do all the
send-off, right?
time.
It's to me like the whole idea of him like going through the quantum realm, time travel to the Peggy Carter thing and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's sweet and all, but how do we do that without throwing off the whole timeline in general?
Yeah. No, I don't think that's
I
happening.
don't
I
think it's
just
gonna
thought
happen.
the idea I thought was
If anything,
just
they're
if he
gonna pull
dies
Peggy
and then he
forward.
sees her
Yeah.
in the afterlife, or their version of the afterlife. That's what I didn't think it was ever going to be like a quantum
No.
thing, or like a
Or maybe
time
they
travel
pull her
thing.
forward, and I don't know. But then they screw up the
No.
whole like Tony Stark stuff with like
Howard
Agent
Stark?
Carter, Tony Stark, Howard Stark dynamic with Agent Carter and how involved she was with that. So it's really weird. So yeah, what happens? That's I think the exciting part is like there's so much question marks about this movie than there were about Infinity War. Infinity War, we knew so much about it. We knew he was going to get the Stormbreaker. We didn't know about the eye thing. We knew so much that was going to happen, or we correctly predicted it.
Yeah.
There was a lot here that I can't even begin to think about.
Yeah, they're in a good place
It's
in
a great
that
spot.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, for real true fans, I assume they're not worried based on the pre-sale thing.
No,
they're not
they're
worried
not
like,
worried.
oh shit, will this make money?
Yeah.
I think obviously they've created an element of, I got to go see this.
Yes.
So that's
100%.
nice.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
To I guess
More Marvel stuff.
the
More
Eternals,
Marvel.
like what happens after Endgame, basically.
Yeah, so we know there's a couple of movies launched after Endgame. There's Doctor Strange 2, there is
Black Panther
Spider-Man
2.
2, Black Panther 2, but most importantly, a new franchise set up called the Eternals. And the Eternals are about cosmic beings, celestials, or whatever.
They are not related in terms of bloodline, but like they're in that, like if you're doing stories of like where Thanos comes from, that's like where the Eternals
Yes.
factor in.
Yes.
It's like that kind of stuff they haven't done yet in the MCU,
Yeah.
basically.
So basically,
It's like dealing with gods.
yeah,
As a-
superpowered, near immortal beings as the Eternals, and what the Eternals do is they're so powerful that they kind of get bored and try to start experimenting with humans or like human beings and all that
Yikes.
kind of stuff. And then they create a monstrous offshoot known as the Deviants, that were created by the cosmic beings known as the Celestials. So there's a lot going on here.
which Star-Lord is half Celestial.
Yes.
That's his-
Because
if
he's-
you're wondering like where Celestials come in, that's Ego the Living Planet. I mean, in the MCU, not in the comic, but like,
Correct.
yeah.
And then there was rumors about Stan Lee being a Celestial,
Right.
in that one.
Which I feel like they've confirmed it's just more James Gunn fucked up when he was like, and then I was a FedEx person.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense yet.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is he just is. Like
Yeah.
that's the idea for the MCU.
Yes.
He is one of the Celestials or like the Watchers or whatever.
Yeah, and I really like that idea because it's just like it's a meta thing, but it's really nice for Stan Lee. The big news about the Eternals movie is that Angelina Jolie is in talks for it. I don't know if it's confirmed yet.
I think at this point it's confirmed she's Cersei,
Okay,
who was an Avenger as well.
right.
It's the person now in question is Kumail Nanjiani,
Yes.
who knows who he'll be, but he's in talks to be a part of it, which is cool.
Yes, and then there is also
I guess the
character
main
of
male
Hercules.
lead would be Hercules,
Yeah, and
who was also an Avenger at one point.
yes, and they're saying that he's going to be the first openly gay MCU character, which I'm pretty excited about.
And that they would cast an openly gay actor.
Yes, because they don't want to fall into that Hellboy controversy of like, oh, racial wasting or whatever. But I mean, like, whatever. It's. I just want them to write a good story, and have it good. But I'm excited for all these elements that they're talking about because the Eternals movie has the same capacity to do very, very well. Like Guardians of the Galaxy did, where it was relatively unknown.
I just have to keep in mind Guardians because it doesn't seem like something I would enjoy. It seems like closer to the Inhumans, which crashed and burned.
Yes, but you know what I like about this is that I was thinking about this and how they can usher in the X-Men is knowing that the Celestials and everything like that, they did like experiments and all that kind of stuff, created maybe mutants, and that's
I'm not that worried about how they're going to. I would rather they just are like, these are the X-Men, like these are mutants, just because I don't like the idea that like they're just coming up now takes away a lot of storylines that like are germane to like what makes because the X-Men are supposed to be the X-Men. The whole idea is that like they're trying to help the people who hate them and actively go after them. Yeah. So if it's just like they just show up, then you have that issue of like, well, this is just new territory. Like it some of the metaphors and what they stand for get broken when it's like, oh, they just showed up, or like people just know about them now. Mm-hmm. I would rather they just ignore the fact that they weren't around and just be like, yeah, I don't trust mutants. Like this is, and let's just keep going from there.
It also really, really fucks up the character backstories of like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the sense where they are.
That's
originally
fine. Those are
mutants
just
and
two out of the
yeah.
thing, and we've already seen their story arcs. Like I'm not
Yes.
like worried about that. It's more what we do going forward. That's what I'm kind of saying is I'm fine with whatever happened. Once they start doing X-Men movies, just go with it and move forward.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's an interesting thought that I had. It was like, oh, they might shoehorn this in and all that kind of stuff.
I'm not saying they won't. You have been right in the past. You probably will be right again. I just feel like there's no need to try and like correct that. Really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a lot of the symbolism behind the X-Men is already lost doing this, or it might be rewritten so it's modern day kind of symbolism, which is interesting in its own right. But we'll see what happens. We'll see.
So that's that, and then I guess there's the Black Widow. I always want to call her Black Scarlet. Black Widow movie stuff.
Yeah.
David Harbour's in yet another superhero movie.
Yes.
So what is he? He's done Green Hornet, Suicide Squad, Hellboy.
Oh,
I
he's
wanna
going to
say
be the
he's
new
in
Ryan
another-
Reynolds, huh?
Yeah. And is he for sure? He's for sure in Black Widow.
I think it's in talks right now.
And then Rachel Weisz
And then
is
Rachel
probably.
Weisz, and then there was rumored to be Emma Watson as well.
Yeah, that was pretty early on. I don't know if that's still the case. We'll
and
see.
I think the speculation behind this movie is going to be more focusing on this character when she was in the KGB era, before she became switched over to Shield, and what that story is like. So we might see a lot of young Samuel L. Jackson again, or a lot less of it. But we're looking at that kind of movie, which to me
Right.
is super, super interesting. To see what happens there.
Sure, I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's just I think what I really, really appreciate behind this movie, the Black Widow movie, is that it's going to be a lot more grounded, kind of like the Spider-Man movie, as opposed to all the other heroes having like, oh, the world's going to end unless we do this one thing. It's just like for her, it's not going to have that scale. So
Yeah,
it's gonna
they've
be
got a
lot
good
more of
thing to go in.
Yeah.
It's
I think that is refreshing to me every now and then.
yeah.
Like when Spider-Man did
because
that.
I feel like it'll be like that Red Sparrow Jennifer Lawrence movie, or like
I didn't see that.
apparently it's not as action packed as thing, but I think
Fair enough.
some of the same things of like as we've been talking about earlier, like the humanity and like what goes into like being that kind of a spy and what you lose, what's the trade off? I assume is where they're going, which would be interesting.
Right.
But then you also have movies like Salt and Atomic Blonde, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
where are they gonna go to make it still a part of the MCU and feel like that kind of storytelling? So yeah, I'm happy that she got a solo movie. That's nice.
Finally, but whatever.
But yeah, I don't know. She really works as a character in someone else's story. Like because she has these cool moments of like in the first Avengers where like that first time you see her and they think that they've captured her, but really she's just getting information out of them.
Yeah.
Or she does the same thing to Loki when he like yells at her and she's like, "Oh, so that's her plan? Okay, thanks."
Yeah.
And then walks out. Like that kind of stuff is cool. And I'm like, do you just string a bunch of those together for a movie and then have people be like, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know like what it looks like, because I think we've seen like characters like Punisher and some of these characters that are like already set and you already know like what their deal is and what they do well. Sometimes it doesn't work when you try to do a deep dive on them.
True.
Okay, let's move on to the DC stuff, which is the
Yes.
Suicide Squad stuff mostly. I guess we can start off with the Birds of Prey thing where there was set photos where it looked like Jared Leto's Joker was back.
Yep.
He's throwing her out, but he seems like he's doing Morbius. But then
Well,
he
it's
did
a-
the Snapchat
it's
thing
a
where he
body
used
double. Yeah.
but he used a clown
Interesting.
on his Snapchat
So he's just
or his
fucking with
Instagram.
us now,
yeah,
right?
I think he's just fucking with
Yeah,
us.
I
But
think
it does
we'll
seem
discuss
like
that.
no, like the movie we're about to review has shown that these studios don't really care.
Yeah.
But like what I'm saying, what I mean is that they are keeping that Joker alive.
Yes.
Well, I mean, whether or not Jared Leto plays him in this movie, he's still around. Obvious. I mean, that's obvious. You'd have to see her break up with him.
Yes.
Maybe this is the best way to do it. Just someone throwing something from the window.
Right.
But I did think it was interesting that he probably knowingly did that thing with the clown on his Snapchat because, you know, he is actively filming a different movie right now. It's not like he's like, yeah, I just stopped by to film this scene.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't make sense for him to
No,
do
it
that.
does not make sense.
But yeah.
He's in the middle of shooting Morbius right now. And
So that I thought was interesting, that he entertained that speculation.
Yeah.
So that's that Birds of Prey stuff. But the big thing we want to talk about was Suicide Squad, which
Yes.
I don't think Jared Leto is in, but apparently everyone else is,
Yeah.
other than Will Smith. And even then, I'm like, he could show up at some point.
Yeah.
Because the big thing is they've shifted Idris Elba away from playing Deadshot.
Yeah. So who he plays right now is going to be an
Someone
interesting
said he's
story.
playing Big Wheel, which I hope... Oh, sorry.
Who? Big Wheel?
That has to be a joke. I think that's
Could
a
he be
Spider-Man
King
villain. No. I
mean,
think
they're-
he would be
they're
Bronze
rumoring to
Tiger.
put him into-
I think he would be
King Shark
Bronze.
here.
Oh, I thought it would be Bronze Tiger. That would make the most sense.
Well, I mean, I
Because-
can't see him being Polka Dot Man.
Well, no, he's a new character, so not one of the ones that we've already mentioned.
Right.
So that's why King Shark, I would be like, I don't know why you would get Idris to do King Shark. People don't generally like covering him up.
Yeah.
That was the problem with Star Trek Beyond.
Yes.
That people had. I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm just saying I think they would know enough to be like, well, we're not going to cover him in thing. Like
You would get a relatively lesser known character for that, or a lesser known actor.
Yeah.
Not Idris Elba.
Who knows? I think it'll be something like Bronze Tiger, or people have been saying something like Black Spider, which I don't know who that is, but
It's another type of spy or something like that. There was in one of the animated DC movies featuring the Suicide Squad. So
yeah.
It doesn't look to be a straight up reboot, and we speculated this because Viola Davis is coming back and all that kind of stuff. It's not a.
I'm really
movie-
happy she's back.
Yeah, I'm really happy she's back. It's not a franchise that needs to be rebooted. The whole thing about the Suicide Squad is that there's a rotating crew. And
Yeah,
that people.
and this is what we talked about. I like the idea that, I mean, they are saying it is a reboot, but like they don't have. I mean, it
don't
seems weird to say that
It's
because
not,
it's like
though.
you can just keep going. Like
Yeah.
it's fine. You don't have to tie back to that other movie.
Exactly.
But-
or I mean, like you only need to do it in terms of dialogue. Like if Viola
You
Davis,
don't
just-
even have to. You
Yeah.
could just keep going.
It's true. You could just keep going with this. Like there's no.
There's
point
no need
of
to tie
rebooting it.
anything
Yeah.
into anything. You could just be like, yeah, look, you're the fucking Suicide Squad. We're
Yeah.
doing this.
Because if you're rebooting it, then there's issues with the Margot Robbie thing, like Harley Quinn, and then there's all this. Like, you
Well, I
need
just
a
feel like
whole
you
new
do-
cast. Why would you do that? I don't understand.
The reason I wouldn't try and like address anything is because that's the whole point of Suicide. It's not like they
Yeah.
actually have a choice. There's no need for them to be like, wait a minute, last time this happened. Like
Yeah.
you could just be like, I have a chip in your head. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Do what I say.
Because it's
now.
Yeah,
Let's
it's not
just
like they
do it.
removed the chip. Like
Yeah,
that wasn't
so-
a part of the term.
So that's what I'm saying. Like there is no like need to be like, wait, why would they do this again? It's like
Yeah.
because they have no choice.
because they're criminals, and there's literally no. They don't have the rights, and they're just pushed towards this, and like they were effective the first time.
yeah.
So of course, do it again, but put a different roster in with different people built with the mission in mind. I mean, that's great.
I think that is probably what's going to work better this time is that the
100%.
people who are picked actually can have an effect on the mission. Like,
Yes.
I have no idea. Other than if I feel like people are always like, it's so stupid that she put those people together to fight Superman. I'm like, unless her whole plan was never to care about Superman, but she just needed a team to extract her from sticky situations. In which case, yeah, the rope guy does make sense to
Yeah.
like go get her and
Yeah.
do stuff like that. So maybe I have a newfound appreciation for the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, hopefully they match what is happening better this time around.
Well,
It's
I mean,
more obvious.
One should hope because it is James Gunn doing it. He's got more. I think he's got a better talent
Well, he is-
telling this kind of story.
And my
lovable
assumption he
business.
has more control
Yes.
than David Ayer clearly did,
Yeah.
since they took that movie away from him.
Yep.
Again, I'm not saying that his movie would be better. I'm just saying we didn't see his movie.
Yes, we did.
So yeah, that's
That's really
so
good.
everyone's back apparently, except for Will Smith. And as I said, even then they could
Well, I
have
mean,
a
not
cameo,
everyone. I mean, El Diablo's not bad.
but he died.
Did he die?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he did. Oh yeah. What's his face is not back. Rick Flag has not been confirmed.
Yeah,
back
he has.
yet. Has he?
yeah, everyone's back except for Killer Croc. But even then,
And Killer and what's her face? Cara Delevingne? Is she back too?
She died.
I'm forgetting that first movie.
Also, she's not part of the Suicide Squad. She started, and then she's the villain.
That's true. I did not remember that movie.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
I the only people you would have to be like, oh, are they back? Is Katana, who again isn't really part of the Suicide Squad. So if she's not in this, I would be like, yeah, that's fine. And Killer Croc, which again they might just be like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
Like we don't need Killer Croc.
Yeah, there's
especially if they're doing King Shark. There's no need to have both. Yep. So yeah, I think everyone who could be back is back.
Right.
And I'm happy that Viola Davis is back. That would have been a big loss for me.
Oh my god, I'm so happy she's back because I love her as that role. I
just love her. So like she was good in it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just like, yeah, I just want her to do comic book stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the DC. Well, whatever they're calling this bullshit. The DC stuff. DC. Whatever. Yeah. Let's now spoil Shazam.
Let's talk about this.
What did you think? I liked it, but I really was. My big thing was like, wow, people really wanted to hate on Captain Marvel. Like, it's so much better. I'm like, is it? I feel like I like them the same. There's not.
I liked Captain Marvel way better than Shazam.
Well, yeah. Well, I could tell from your meh. But what I'm saying is, like, I felt like they were fun. This is the last time I'm going to compare the two. I'm just saying, I feel like they both accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Yes.
So yeah, Shazam. First thing I want to talk about before I forget is I see a lot of people being like, I don't think that Asher Angel or whatever his name is playing the same character as Zachary Levi. I feel like that is a poor interpretation of what's going on. I do think that it tracks between Billy Batson and Shazam.
Yeah,
the thing being like when you first see Billy Batson in earnest, he's being a dick and being like, haha, like I'm fucking with the cops, I'm doing all this stuff. Yeah. All the stuff that you essentially see Shazam doing.
Yes.
Like people are talking about, well, why is he just shooting lightning out? I'm like, he is being a huckster in both situations. If you had the power to do that, you would be like, you wouldn't do it in a way of making it seem like you were tricking people. You would be like, hey, everybody, it's a light show. Give me money. Because that's throughout most of the movie. Shazam is like, you could take a picture with me, but I need money. Give me money. And so, like, I do feel like they were the same. I was like,
they're 100% the same.
I really thought that tracked that, like, sure, when you're a kid, it sucks being a kid, so you're a little more down on your, like, you look a little more upset when you're a kid. You're a 14-year-old who is desperately looking for his mother. You're gonna, but, like, when he livens up, he is exactly what Zachary. It's just Zach Levi powers. Is like has powers, so he can be, and he's an adult. Yeah. So like, there's an element of like, wow, this is much better.
There's like the lack of responsibility. So
there's he's like alleviated. Because people are like, well, he's so like down. I'm like, yeah, but if you were pissed off and then you had powers, you would be happier when you have your powers.
Yes, 100%.
That makes sense to me.
That makes so much sense to me. Like I didn't realize that was a criticism.
No, I've seen it 3 times now, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's really valid.
I feel like that tracks. That is the movie. It's this kid gets superpowers. What would happen? And that kid in particular, not like any kid, but this kid getting powers, pretty much acted the exact same way. He was still a dick. He still was doing. He was still like,
selfish,
like,
careless, irresponsible.
That first time when they're in the liquor store and the bad guys come in to rob, he hides behind Freddy. Like, he is the same person.
Yeah, he's the exact same.
Or
thing.
even when he's talking to Mary, and you think it's gonna be like, no, like you've got a good family. He's like, no, fuck them, leave.
Yeah.
What do you want, a family? That means you can't do things on your own. Get out of here.
Yep.
I'm like, that is Billy. He is playing the same character. He's just a little more stress free because he's got powers.
He's got powers. He's got, like the carefree attitude. Everyone likes him. Everyone knows who he is. Like, of course, it's easy. Like, it's like and of course, that's surface level happiness too. Yeah, that's not deep rooted. Like, you don't need that part, because I think Asher Angel does that a lot better than Zachary Levi could, convincingly in the suit, given the context. Right?
Yeah, I still think he gets there when like they're having their fights and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But anyway, so yeah, this movie is fun. I will give it that.
It's definitely fun. It's definitely family. It's lighthearted. It's
I
all the
wouldn't
things.
say it's family, mostly because of the kid who jumped out of her seat and tried to run out during the Seven Deadly Sins scene. I thought they went pretty intense with that. And the recurring strip club jokes.
Yeah.
Which,
That was
again,
so
you don't
funny to
see
me.
anything, but just having to explain like what the point of that is after the fact makes me feel like parents...
Oh, well, what's
especially
the
on my
rating
other
for this? Like
podcasts,
PG-13?
it's PG. Well, I don't know.
PG or PG?
It's different in Canada than it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is just PG,
Right.
Because you can get away with a lot in PG.
Yes.
I just think that more than the strip club thing, and as I was saying on our other podcast, Movies versus Matrimony, I read the parent guide a lot. That's part of like the shtick we do.
Yeah.
People really complain about a lot less, so I don't know. I think that might bite them is how not family friendly it can get. I wouldn't say that's that's not the overwhelming feeling you have when you leave, obviously.
Right.
But if you're thinking about a parent making the decision to come, I feel like they might feel a little bit betrayed by because they do not show the Seven Deadly Sins in the trailers.
No, they don't.
They are not part of that even a little bit. So you think it's like, yeah, he learns how to use his powers, and Dr. Savannah comes around. He's just a bald idiot. Who cares about him? But like, even that first, which I did like the beginning of the movie where it was just straight up the Dr. Savannah storyline, like origin story. I was like, pretty good.
Because I was like, wait, what the hell?
I was like,
this?
74. That's too early.
I'm like, what is going on here? And then I was like, oh, okay. I now that he rejected him, because the thing I liked about this movie was that it wasn't a prophecy. He wasn't Billy Batson.
Oh yeah,
You're
because by the time it's Billy, he's like, look, you're all I've got, man.
Yeah.
Just do it, please.
That's what I loved about this. It was the idea is like, no, he went searching. He couldn't find someone that was good enough, and he's like, no, okay, you're the last person. You displayed some good, heroism and all that kind of stuff.
He's like, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. You beat up some guys who were going to beat up Freddy. Like, just come on, please.
Yeah.
Just do it. Do it. The only thing I thought was weird was his approach before he said, look, you're all I got, is he gave full context as to why this needed to happen. Whereas for Savannah, he's like, it's a test, see what happens. Yeah. And then presumably he did that for like how many ever years in between and before. And I'm like, why not lead with this is what's happening? I need you, like, I need to see if you're pure of heart. Like, I feel like you would get like at a certain point he knows he's dying and that like things are happening. I feel like you should be quicker to jump to like, look, yeah, like here, this is the case.
Yeah,
because it wasn't the same test, and I get when he reveals, look, you're all I've got, that he wasn't testing him anymore, and I'm like, okay, fine, that makes sense. But I'm like, I feel like I would get there quicker.
Yeah,
like I feel like I would be like, yeah, you know what, like we just I just gotta handle this now. Like we gotta figure this out. Yeah. But anyway, that's a minor nitpick. The only other thing I thought was weird was they do go to great lengths to show that this is in the exact same universe as the Snyder film, like Superman, Batman,
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So
it's super weird to me.
So when no, that's not what's weird. What's weird is when you see like the woman at the Savannah like Institute be like trying to explain away things. I thought she was gaslighting that woman when she's like, well, that's mass hysteria. I was like, oh yeah, like of course the villains wouldn't want. But like when I'm like, wait, you actually believe she didn't know what she saw? We live in a world where fucking Superman came down and a bunch of aliens fought.
Yeah.
And, like, that's in the news. That's not like, oh, that just happened in Metropolis.
Yeah.
Like, you would know that. There's Aquaman. Like, fucking Justice League happened.
Yeah.
You know that this is a thing. What do you mean that you don't believe that a woman, like, went into a different realm? Like, you're, like, a serious scientist, and you're like, come on. Do you really I'm like, yes, that is a thing. That would definitely be a thing in this world.
Yeah, that's evidence right there. Like, you have photographic evidence.
This makes no sense.
Yeah, that's a weird premise. I guess there's like people still trying to ignore it, and then people haven't been sold in yet or something like that. But
I just feel like it's impossible to be like, no, that's a hoax.
Yeah,
it would happen way too frequently.
Well, I mean,
for that, like it's not like, oh yeah, that happened like 10 years ago. Fuck that. It's like this happens on a regular basis.
As much as you say that to me, and this is not a good comparison. But like to me, the amount of flat earther believers that have arisen.
Yeah, but they're not scientists out of like a thing with getting funding to do stuff.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of
they're in their basement that are doing like
true. Yeah, I'm not going to push too hard on that because it's just like I can't defend it. It's silly. It's stupid.
But yeah, I do like that the worlds are connected because it shows they can still be connected and not have to like
overlap all the time.
Yeah, like it was just like, yeah, that this happens in that world. That's why Freddy is so excited when he meets a superhero. Like that, to me, everything to do with Freddy, he elevates everybody else.
Yeah, Freddy's
and I
awesome
do like
in this.
Darla as well. She kind of started off rocky, but
Which one's Darla again?
His little sister that
Oh, the
tries to
little
keep
sister.
the secret.
I see.
By the time
The hug girl, right?
Yeah, by the time that he like rejects her hug and she's like, "I'm sorry," I'm like, "No, I'm on board with her." She was kind of awkward at the beginning, but like she's I think her name's Faith Henderson or something like that. She's from This Is Us. Because I was like, wait, she's great on This Is Us. Why is she like this here? And then she got there for me anyway. Pauline thought she was great the whole time, but I liked that relationship. I was like, I would definitely like to keep because. Again, when they get their powers at the end, which I think I talked about last episode, I really liked her like adult version because she still is a kid. So she was like, Santa, my name is Starla, and I've been a good girl.
Yeah,
and you're
that
like,
was really
I'm like,
fun.
wow, you really sold that, Megan. Good for you.
Yep, it was really fun.
But yeah, I liked that. That's what works. Everything to do with like the foster home kids, like.
I love the foster home stuff. It was really, really great.
Which I guess comes up against like my main concern about the movie was that like they did a lot of work for Savannah, like at the beginning, like that relationship with his dad and his brother. I'm like, okay, like we're really getting into it, and then it's like, you get it. That's it. That's done now.
Yeah.
We literally throw it out when he throws his brother out the window, and then like, then it becomes about the foster kids, and I'm like. There seems like there was a smoother way to transition because you basically forget about Savannah until he's on screen.
Right.
He doesn't have like a presence over the whole movie.
No.
The way other villains have in the past.
Yeah.
Like you're not like worried about him. You don't really care. You're like, oh yeah, I guess he still wants to do this.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I get what your motivations are. They're pretty. You know.
Well, that's the thing. Like they've set him up to be like not even if you're not like a threat. Like they've set him up to be like, well, yeah, he should like. He would be upset that Billy got the powers, and so I could see why he would stay on him. But they just don't really go anywhere with him on that. Like they're kind of just like he wants him, and so then I guess that's what I'm saying. Like they didn't build him up as Mark Strong enough.
Yes.
Like I felt like as a kid, definitely built up. I understood everything there, but then as an adult, you're kind of like, and I understand that you should already know, but it just felt like. I didn't really care about him once he was the adult. They didn't tie anything really back. Like again, as soon as he throws his brother out the window, there's no more like connection to all that work they did at the beginning.
Yes, I agree
with him. It's just done, and you're like, he's just a guy that wants to kill Shazam, and he doesn't want to. It's the Seven Sins that want to, realistically.
Yeah,
because like, well,
he's controlled by that power.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like they're like, well, if he figures it out, we're done, right? So it's like, yeah, he wants Billy, but is he like, would he do that if he had his druthers? Like, if he was in control, would he care about Billy as much? I don't think so. So then it's like, what is he like? What's he got going on?
Yeah. But I mean, like at some point he's got to care because if they're living in the same universe as Superman and Batman and all that kind of stuff, he's like, oh well, Superman probably would come after me at some point. So
but I think as someone who knows the comics, I know that he would beat Superman because he's magic and Superman has issues with magic.
Correct.
So then to me, then that's not really a thing because I'm just like, well, he'd be fine.
Sure.
Because he's not a good guy and he would just use his magic to kill Superman or like incapacitate him and then keep moving.
Right.
So there's that element, but like I don't know what they could have done differently. I just felt like that's a thing where it was like there was an attempt and then it seemed like they kind of dropped it.
Yep.
For stuff I liked better, don't get me wrong. Like I do like the kid stuff better.
I was surprised. I surprisingly really liked that. Really liked that. It was a heart and center of the movie.
Yeah, like the Freddy character, I never remember the actor's name, but
Jack Dylan Grazer.
Yeah, he's amazing. That kid,
I loved him.
He was great in it, and he's great in this,
Yeah.
and I look forward to more of his stuff. I mean, I guess there's going to be an element where he grows out of it, and it's not as fun. But maybe he'll be like
whole Haley Joel Osment kind of.
No, but he's still a good actor. It's just he doesn't look the way he does.
Yeah.
Sorry, he didn't look like. Whereas I guess that's not what I'm talking about here. It's not like, oh, what a cute kid. It's more just like he's got this timing that I don't know if he can sustain, but It might be like
I
a
see.
Leonardo DiCaprio thing where he's like he just comes back as an adult and you're like, yeah, this guy
He's
he
killing
knows
it.
what he's doing.
Or kind of like a Natalie Portman thing. where
Yes.
you're like, oh, yeah, you
It's-
went away for a little bit.
But
You
then-
came back, and now you're better.
Yep.
Like it.
Anyway, I really
Or
like
Joseph
him.
Gordon-Levitt thing. He doesn't get enough.
He's gone again. But,
gone again, yeah.
But like, yeah, exactly.
He came back
like,
for a while. I was like, oh, we can take you seriously now. Great. Good for you.
But yeah, I really like the Freddy stuff, especially when he's like, when Shazam tries to pull out the "you're just jealous." He's like, yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
like, because what he doesn't say, and I appreciate it, but like, he's like, he's probably jealous of you even when you're not Shazam. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot you can do that he can't do.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just liked all of that stuff.
That was
came
really,
out.
really, yeah. Those interactions were really, really strong. It felt really, really good, and I liked that when the foster kids was like, "Hey, do you notice how Shazam and Freddy kind of
Fight
fight
like an old-
like they are an old couple or something?"
Oh, this reminds me again.
Yeah.
As soon as Mary becomes a superhero, I was like, so they're just not going to do anything with her then? Because
Yeah.
like she gets tangled up by one of the monsters and that's it. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
They
okay.
really did not-
There was a lot of work. I think it's because historically they are a couple, and it's
What,
it's just-
Billy and Mary?
Mary, and it's just an
And
awkward
it's
thing because
awkward
they
they're
are
so much older. Yeah.
Well, no, it's because in the first iteration of the comics, they are just brother and sister. It's not a foster
Oh.
thing. It's just like, well, when they turn into the superheroes, they're not
Right.
brother and sister. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd leave that alone. So I can see the director being like,
Shy away from that a little bit.
yeah, we won't talk about that.
Right. Right.
But it was
That's
just
fair.
weird that it was like, yeah, they put a lot of emphasis on her, and I liked her before
Yes.
she turns. But I was like, one, you don't look any different. I'm not even convinced it's a different actress. It is. Well, I saw in the credits, but I was like, you just look the same. I don't. It doesn't
Well, I mean, she
seem
was
like
the least child. She's
She's
going to
18.
university. She's
Yeah.
18 at that point, right? So yeah.
I like when Zachary Levi's like, I'm definitely 25. Maybe I'm my third. I'm like, dude, aren't you like 40? Like, as a 33-year-old now, I'm like, you're not 25.
Yeah. No, the movie worked. I think a lot of the heart of this movie was I really, really, really liked the foster parents a lot.
Yes, they were good.
They were fantastic.
They weren't
I
like
really
they weren't
liked
like
the dad.
dopey or anything. Like they were like, you were just like, yeah, I want that mom to like succeed at making Billy feel at home. Like, I legitimately was like when he goes, because I'm home, and she like smiles. I'm like, good. I'm really happy that happened for her because
Yeah.
she's nothing but nice the whole time.
Yep.
And like, there's whatever. Like, I was just like, no, like they really did a good job of making me feel. I think it was that added thing of them both. They both were foster kids as well.
Well, that's
I
a
think
huge
that-
part of it.
I
That
think
was,
that made
to
me be
me-
like, I'm really rooting for them because like
Yeah.
they understand the importance of this, and
Yep.
all they want to do is make people feel at home.
Yep.
That's such a great thing to be striving for.
And like to me, like the whole idea of like them having that backstory of they were foster kids, and that they're running this foster home, and that they were legit scared about Billy being lost and everything like that. I'm like, that really, they sold that really well to me.
And I also like that when the first time he runs away,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't run away, but like the first time he's gone, he's like, come on, like we did that. We did our fair share of
Right.
that. Like Mary ran away like twice. Like they weren't like clueless parents. I think that's what I like. They weren't like,
Yeah.
whoa, what's going on? They were just like, okay, we know how to deal with this
Yeah.
until it's like, all right. So then when they do freak out, you're like, okay, like they know
It's-
the right time to
Yep.
like, to be like, okay, no, now we need to do something.
I agree. I liked it better that it was a foster home with multiple foster kids and everything like that, instead of like a one family.
Oh, that they just bring him into their
Yes.
actual family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It is their actual family, but to their
To
blood.
the biological
like, yeah,
family,
biological. Yeah.
and everything like that. So I thought that worked really, really well for me. I like, now that I talk about this movie, there's a lot more positives that I like about it. The things that I guess basically what they basically did was okay, you know what worked with Marvel origin stories? Let's just do exactly that here. And that's what I didn't appreciate so much.
I didn't really. I mean, that wasn't obvious to me that they were just doing them.
It
I
kind of
think it's
seemed like
just
that
fun.
because the previous DC movies were so wildly different than this one, right? And a lot of people were going like, "This is the first post Snyder DC movie," and I'm like, I don't think that's entirely true. I mean, look at
It is.
the Aquaman thing.
That was still
Snyder-
under because he got
he
James
got
wanted to do
influenced in
it,
that,
yeah.
right?
It's
So
still-
so this is why it's wildly different. there's a lot that I liked about this movie, but for the reasons why I like Marvel movies, and I kind of expected DC to still do a different beat, their own thing. But I get that they have to win back an audience or prove that they're fun and not just doom and gloom and all that kind of stuff.
I really liked the scene where, there's two things in the end that I liked. When Dr. Sivana is like threatening him, and he's like, I can't hear what you're saying.
That's the best part.
Are you saying something
Yeah.
to me? I was like, this is great.
You realize we're like a mile apart, right?
Like, there's cars, there's buses.
You're not even like trying to speak up louder than normal. Are you monologuing right now? That was a really, really fun thing to me.
And I liked, again, because I was like, when are they going to turn the kids into the superheroes? When he's
Yeah.
like, say my name, and they're like, Billy. I'm like, I didn't see that coming. That was really well.
That
is
really
really
fun.
well timed. That
I like that a
happened
lot.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking forward to them making the family happen, and I'm like, they're really pushing that is the only way this will work, considering it's like the 7 deadly sins versus him, and
Right.
as much as they show him like trying to test out his powers, at no point is he like good at it. So I was like,
he's terrible
yeah,
at
he will need some help.
Yeah.
Like right now.
The thing that I didn't like was the fact that the family learned their superpower so fast relative to whatever.
They
but
weren't.
I mean, like,
They were better, but they weren't good.
But it's
Think about what they did. Other than Darla, who just seems like a nice person,
Yeah.
and a lot of that is intuition. Like she helped the people in the Ferris wheel, but like they didn't do a lot. Like it was still came down to Shazam. So like I understand. I knew you would bump up against it, but it didn't seem like they just learned their powers. Like how much do you need to know if who's the other brother? Not Freddy.
the Asian kid?
No, sorry, not Eugene. Not Eugene. Pedro.
Pedro. Yeah.
Pedro was just like, oh, I'm strong, and then like he again, it was just like instinct to want to save people. He's like, I can do it. I can do it. Like, so it's not like he was like, let me figure this out. It's just like, no, like he went to do something, and that's what I liked is that in each situation that Shazam had to be a hero, he backed away initially. Like,
Yes.
like the beer
Billy,
store robbery or like the bus thing. Like he takes a long time. Like his thing is land on the mattress. Like he looks at people being really hurt and is just like, I don't want to have to deal with this. Like please don't make me do this.
Yeah.
Whereas the foster kids who had a better upbringing, imagine like, well, yeah, obviously he got abandoned pretty early. Like they feel a closer connection and like have those loving parents. So all of their instincts to help make sense. Like they have those.
That's a
instincts
good point. That's
and
something
so
I
like
never
they
thought
are
about.
able to do the things that they probably always wanted to do.
Right.
Except for Mary for some reason. That seemed weird. And
that's
Freddy wasn't good, but that made sense as well because he's probably not used to working with his body the way he was.
Yeah.
I did like that he was floating for most of it because I'm like, yeah, you probably wouldn't be good on your feet right away because you're not. So like there was little details that I thought were well placed and made sense to me for that because at no point was I like, wow, they're gonna save the world. I was just like, yeah, they barely came out of that alive. Like not alive, but like that didn't go well. Like they caused a lot of harm and like
it wasn't like a smooth.
That was not
thing.
a clean
It was
win.
not clean whatsoever. It was just kind of like, we got right through that. God, was it? I think the part of the movie I liked the most was how he had to deal with the fact that his mom's just a shitty person.
I like the scene,
loved
but
that.
it didn't. I was just like, that's weird. I get that they show that he remembered her differently, but I'm like, it would make sense to me if she took him to the fair to leave him, like if that's what they were saying. But the fact that she was like, oh wow, that was a freebie, he's gone. But I was like, I just feel like for me it would help only because that's information we're just getting there and it doesn't feel like it's built up. I would have an easier time buying because she did not read a 17, so like it's all this information you're getting and it's like, okay, yeah, I understand how a 17-year-old would make a bad decision like that, but I also would buy that she as a dumb 17-year-old was like, I'll leave him at the fair, like he'll have fun and then that will be his memory of me and I'm leaving, more than like I saw that the cops were, because to me I would think as a 17-year-old he's going to tell the cops who I am and that he's going to find me. I
Well,
wouldn't.
He was how old? Like 2 at the time.
Well,
or
he
3?
was 3, I think they say, but again, none of the ages really matched up for me because he was pretty cognizant and like had a lot of wherewithal. Like,
Yeah, I was like, "Mommy, win this." I was like, "Okay."
yeah, but I mean, again, he did it like.
Definitely
I watched it recently enough that like I don't remember him acting like a dumb little kid, even in those little kid scenes. So to me, it made no sense to me that he wasn't saying when they're like, "Hey, what's your mom's name?" and he just like shrinks down. I'm like, seems like he would be like, "This is my mom's name." Like even when I used to get lost in things, I'd be like, "Can you please page my mom? Her name is Pamela Grant. Like, please go get her." Like,
dude, I did not know my mom's name until I turned like 10.
Fair enough.
Because, like, honestly, it was just mom. But that was more of an Asian, like, no, it's respect thing. This is my title. You don't call me by my name. So I did not know
I just feel like I would try to do it.
Yeah.
And I also feel like if she saw that he was talking to not just other adults, but like cops, my assumption would be like, oh, he'll find me. Whereas if her plan was, I'm just going to leave him, and that was the reveal, that would make more sense to me. In the like,
I like the fact that it was more of an accident than it was.
But it wasn't an
malicious,
accident. That's
like,
what I'm
thing.
saying.
Because
at
it was
that
more
point,
of
it's
a
not
malicious thing. I feel like,
but it is malicious to see him. It's not like she just was like, "Oh shit, now I don't know where he is."
Yeah.
She said, "I saw you. I looked at you doing it, and thought, well, this is better for me."
yeah.
So it is
better
it's,
for both of us.
but
I
it's
think she
still a
said,
decision.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah, she can
It's
spin
a
it however
heat of
she
the
wants,
moment,
but the ultimately
better
it's better
for
for her.
It was better for her.
You can't possibly like. I know that she said, "Oh, they'll do a better job racing you," but that's clearly
that's
no,
not true.
that's
Yeah.
not the case. Yeah. So what I'm saying is she does make a decision.
Yes.
So for me, I would like it better if it was a premeditated, like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do, because then I would feel like, oh, that's just a stupid 17-year-old decision that you would actually believe. Like, this is better. Like, if I leave him here, someone will pick him up and take care of him.
Because I think the dialogue to me that irked that decision was like, oh, she just got kicked out of the house or something like that. Right?
Yeah, her parent. Yeah, the
kicked her out
dad
of the house.
left and parents.
Yeah, but
kicked
then,
her out.
But then it's like, why did that happen over, like, what I'm assuming is a 3-year-old with a 17-year-old and all that kind of stuff? Why would it be like, oh, he's 3 now, we're kicking you out of the house and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't know.
That to me was inconsistent, but I'm like, whatever. I mean, these decisions never could be rationalized.
No. Yeah.
So I like the fact that it was more of a last minute decision than it was a pre-cognitive thing, because if it was a pre-cognitive thing, then I'd be like, why didn't you just get rid of him as a baby so he has like literally no memory of you at all?
Well, I think that's what the dialogue that you're bumping up against is for. Is that she at that point she'd lost all her support systems.
Yes,
so that's why she needs to get rid of him.
Fair enough.
So, but I think because what the movie is basically saying is like, this is making the decision for you need to just go back to the foster home. It ties it up better for me if it's like she did think about it and that was her dumb decision, and you can be like, wow, so I've been looking for you this whole time, and it's not that like a couple years later you found out where I was and you're like,
yeah,
it's like you saw it right in the moment that I was really upset and needed you, and you were like,
you're still a shitty person. Because the
reason
why
there's no way of making her look better, so I just feel like it's cleaner.
Look better. Because the ultimate argument is like, if she was looking for him in that happy scenario or whatever, then I'm like, how did you fail that badly to not report that you lost your child?
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you obviously had been avoiding this the entire time. It's not just a simple thing that he didn't know your name. It's just that you were actually avoiding him. And I like that the movie had the guts to actually do that, as opposed to try to be like, nope, we're doing this instead. So the whole like chosen family versus the biological family to me was a really, really, like, that was the theme I loved the most in this. That is well done. It's just, for me, the mom thing and the dad, not the dad, and the Savannah stuff were the only things that I was kind of like, this could have been done better. And again, I don't really know how to do it with Savannah. I think that's just, if we are saying this is a Marvel movie, that's the downside of the Marvel movies, is they don't really have time for their villains. Yeah. And that's how I felt here, is that they didn't have time for their villains, but I feel like because they needed to build up the hero, because we're sticking with the hero, we're not sticking with the villain.
Yeah, no, that part I'm fine with.
In which case, I was like, now I'm like, I like that they didn't put Black Adam in this. Because
he is technically in it because he's the first champion that What's-His-Face was talking about.
Yes. But still, it's
The
just
Rock
like-
is not in it.
No, he's not in it. But it would have to build up Black Adam, who's in a very important.
I still
villain.
could have seen him come in at the end to be like, "This is how you do it, kid." I could have seen that, but like, and I would have liked that better than
The
a
Superman
half-assed Superman thing.
thing. I didn't care for it. I mean, it just was what it was. Like, sure, whatever. It was a funny, like, teeth and joke.
I guess
tongue-in-cheek
I
thing.
think it's how long they lingered on it. Like,
Yeah.
seeing him walk in that way, you could be like, cool, whatever. But the fact that he sits down and they still don't show his face, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Sure.
You did. He got fired or whatever the fuck happened.
Or yeah, there's
like-
negotiating contracts or whatever.
Well, no,
Or maybe he had another mustache. Or
Did we forget to talk about the fact that Ezra Miller's probably gone too? I think that's what
we
it was.
did forget. To
I
talk
think
about
that's that's the awkward thing about, not the awkward thing about the movie, because there's a clear point where Shazam is flying through the sky
yes.
and a kid is playing with his Batman and Superman toys, drops them to be like, oh, cool, Shazam, which to me is obviously a meta moment of like, yeah, forget about those guys.
Yeah.
We've got Shazam now. So that's why bringing Superman in doesn't feel like it's in line with what this movie is about.
And they're
Of,
trying
like,
to break away from the old stuff.
yeah, like they are trying to break it. That's why from what I can tell, is added after the fact, all the Aquaman stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it can't be added after the fact. He's wearing shirts, but like the second scene where he's like, "What's
mean that
cool about talking?"
post-credit scene?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what's cool about talking to fish or whatever. That is embracing the stuff that's working well for them. And
Yes.
the visual of dropping Batman and Superman
Yeah.
to look up to Shazam, to me, means like, what's the point of bringing in Superman at the end then?
I agree with that. It's inconsistent, except for the delivery of a joke.
Yeah,
Or-
it's fine.
yeah.
Like that's nice, but what I'm saying is, I would rather.
have.
If we're shoehorning things in, I would rather shoehorn in Black Adam, because then you can build. There's still room
Yes.
to grow there of like the potential mentor that becomes
Correct.
your enemy. Like all that stuff can work, and it's universe building within your universe.
Correct.
When I say universe, obviously I mean like the Shazam stuff, which is what we were talking about, how Aquaman can have spin-offs and you can keep working within that.
Yeah.
Shazam has the Shazam family. All of that stuff, to me, the movie makes more cases to not have that Superman cameo than it does. And I think because we know the background of like, they wanted Henry Cavill, they couldn't get, or I feel like they just didn't want to pay him.
That's what I feel more than anything else. Because the budget for this movie was
They're
significantly
like, sorry, when are
lower.
you doing Witcher? He's like, these times. Oh, that's when we were going to film Shazam.
That's
Sorry.
unfortunate. Oh,
but that's what I'm saying. Like,
I was
it's
washing
like
my hair that day.
it's just like yeah, it's just like a weird. It's like a weird thing to like half-ass that cameo. Like
Yeah.
it's like you don't need that.
the
I mean,
thing
you don't
is,
even need
you
don't need
don't
the
need
Black
the
Adam thing, but
yeah.
what you definitely don't need the Superman thing, because the whole point is they're moving forward with these more unestablished characters.
Yes.
They don't need to hold on to Batman, Superman right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird thing to be like, but I think it'd be even weirder to be like, we're not going to acknowledge that Superman or Batman are in this.
But they do.
Universe.
That's the whole point. When he first
Yeah.
meets him, he's like, "This is the bullet
Batarang
that shot
and- yeah.
Superman." They show the headlines. It's all tied in. You don't need to see them.
Yeah.
You already know they're part of that universe.
It's true.
And
but-
that was what I was saying about the scientist thing. That
Yeah.
she's like, "No, that's mass hysteria." I'm like,
That's
even
ridiculous.
if she believes that, that person would be like, "Fuck you." There's fucking Superman and like aliens flying around.
Yep. Yep.
So that's all I'm saying is it is firmly established that they are part of the same universe.
Yes.
I don't need to see his chest. Like,
The Superman.
yeah, like it's like, okay, are they friends? Like, how did that happen? When did that happen?
Hope symbol.
Yeah, but like, when did they become friends? How
That's
come
what
they're
bothered
friends?
me about that scene. Is just like,
Because Superman would look
What?
at him and being like, "Why are you being a dick?
Yeah.
Like, why are you
It's
going
like-
around charging people for pictures and
Yeah.
stuff like that?" I don't understand why they would be friends.
yeah, that to me made no sense whatsoever. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's just to get. The only thing I liked about that scene was like the Freddy's reaction to.
It's a nice payoff for Freddy. It's
Yes.
nice that the school will respect him now that his family was sitting with him,
yes.
and now
he
Superman
actually
and
does
Shazam.
know Shazam.
Yeah.
But I think like the actually knowing Shazam and having Shazam show up, that was all that they
Yeah,
needed.
that's
to
what
do.
I'm saying. It just needed to be
Yeah.
because I was really pissed when he didn't show up for him, and I'm like, I don't even
No,
know.
I wasn't that pissed. I was just like, this is consistent with Billy's attitude.
No,
Like,
this,
yeah,
I
sure.
mean, I wasn't pissed at the movie's logic. I was pissed because that movie wants me to be pissed.
Oh, I see. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
I was like, fuck you, man. Because, like, I feel like he got out of it way better. Those kids would have beat the shit out of it. Like, he would have had bruises on it. I know they're not going to show that. They did show blood in the movie, though, like,
Yes.
to prove points. But I was just like, he doesn't even have, like, a bruised cheek. Like, those kids would really go off on him.
That's the thing. Like, he got hit by that car. That, like,
He got
Ford,
right back up.
Yeah, it was just, like, ridiculous. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, none of that made sense to me. I thought there would, like,
that
be
part doesn't make sense. But what I'm
backstories.
saying is those
Yeah.
kids would.
Yeah, they would. because
They would
they're
put him in the
dicks.
hospital, basically.
Because
they
the thing
would
is,
have put him in the
When I
hospital.
first saw that scene in the trailers, I'm like, oh, Freddy's gonna be an asshole. He's gonna make fun of people and try to hide behind his his disability to be like, oh, you can't hit me because of
Yeah,
this.
he's
And then
not
they
like that at
finally,
all.
yeah, he's not like that at all. He's a good person. So I'm like, what the fuck was that scene all about? I don't get it. It was just like a couple of
I think it's
asshole
just
kids.
which is a thing.
Which is a total thing,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, how did they get their hands on that truck? Like, that to me was just like, that bothered me. Because I mean, like, they're just fresh out of high school, right? Because I'm assuming
Are
that's
they
a
out of high school?
I'm assuming that's a high school.
Yeah.
Because they're saying what age, like 15 or something like that.
They're
It's like,
14.
14, 15-year-old. That's when
That's high
kids
school.
start high school, right?
But I don't know. I think they still go to that school.
yeah,
Yeah, you get your license at 16.
I guess that's true. But I guess, right, this is set in America. That's what, yeah, that's what was throwing me off about this whole thing. I'm like, wait, but this is a Canadian system. Nope, it's Philadelphia
Yeah.
through the eyes of Toronto.
They're worse. I mean, to their credit, they still shot in Philadelphia sometimes.
Yes, it did, but
Good
that
for
was
them.
more B-roll stuff, I
Yeah.
thought.
I'm
Or
just
maybe
saying-
like the scenes where like Shazam's
It
on
wasn't
the
as
actual
obviously
thing.
Toronto to me as the trailers made it.
They made it so obvious.
The trailers, I was just like,
The only thing they were
why do
missing
they
was the
have to
goddamn
be in
CN tower.
Philadelphia? Can't they just be in Toronto?
Yeah.
I get it. DC doesn't do real city names for the most part. Like, the heroes don't live in real city names.
Right.
Like,
So
he
that
lives in
was
Fawcett
weird.
City because
So that
Shazam
was
comes
what they
from
called
Fawcett.
Fawcett City.
They still were in Philadelphia. That was the whole point. But
Yes.
he's part of whatever made up part of Philadelphia called Fawcett City
Yeah.
or
Kinda how,
Pitts.
like,
Sorry,
yeah.
what's it?
Metropolis and Gotham are basically New York and New Jersey and stuff like that.
In this,
Yeah.
but I think in other things it's New York and Chicago. But I think,
Oh, is it really?
But I think for the Snyderverse, it is New York and New Jersey. Just the way they were able to just like
'Cause it makes
jump
sense.
a harbor to be in.
Yeah, because it makes sense that Chicago would be Gotham and
Yes.
Metropolis would be New York.
But
would not
but
make
in the
sense for
Snyder
New
thing is
Jersey.
but
The
in the
Snyder
Snyder
thing,
thing,
yeah,
the whole
fair.
point is that Gotham is New Jersey.
That's
But anyway, yeah, I think the idea is I thought I was going to catch it. I don't remember what I was going to say. They're in Fawcett City because Shazam originally came from Fawcett Comics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so none of the heroes actually live in real real city names.
Right.
So that takes away the opportunity for it to be Toronto.
Sure. Yeah. What's the God? What was that? I really liked what's his face's cameo too. That guy from the OC. That Adam
Yeah, Adam Brody.
Brody.
That's
thought
what
that
I
was
was
fun.
saying. That's what I was saying last episode. I thought that was a good match of
Yes.
that kid with Adam Brody.
Yes.
He didn't really get to do a lot, but like I did like that match. I was like, from what I've seen of him, that is a perfect thing. And
yeah.
again, I've defended the Angel Asher Zachary Levi thing. I thought that was also a good match.
It was a good match. It was definitely a good match.
All of the kids were good matches. I mean, in the case of Pedro, they clearly went. They had a take, which was
Yeah.
fine.
The
So,
Eugene adult thing was a bigger stretch, but whatever. Like, I don't know.
for you,
Well, I mean, like, just this is a very quiet kid, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my god, I'm jumping around," and all this kind of stuff. It was weird.
we are talking about the Ian Chen character, right? Eugene.
Yes, Eugene Choi, and his like adult Shazam counterpart.
He didn't really say much.
Yeah, he didn't say much. That's why, like, when he was like still like different person. Well, whatever. Like, they had the better argument for that versus the Asher Angel and Shazam argument. If they're saying it doesn't track well, I'm like, no, that tracks well. What doesn't track well is the Eugene
That's
thing.
fair.
But the Eugene thing doesn't really matter to me because it's not like he was a big part of it. It was just a part of the family and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. That was it.
that's fair. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, they didn't really spend much time on it, but I
imagine
I
they
was
would for the
like,
next
I
one,
get that like they both don't really talk, and
Yep.
that he liked video. Like the only time I remember him talking was to do the Mortal Kombat reference.
Yeah.
So that made sense to me.
Good times. Yeah, I did like that fact that the post credit scene was just like making fun of Aquaman like the whole way everyone else was, and then it was like, I don't know, talk to it. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
He's like, but what can you really do with that? But the first mid credit scene is Mr. Mind character, which I'd heard about because I was listening to a podcast about Shazam, and I was just like, yeah, it's as stupid as I thought it would be. I mean, not in practice, but I was just like, yeah, I don't understand how you go from 7 Deadly Sins to Mr. Mind.
Yeah, that's weird.
We'll see.
I
don't even know if
assumed
he
it would be Black Adam. That was my biggest disappointment. Was like we didn't see.
Oh no, I knew for a
Black
fact he
Adam.
wouldn't be in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think The Rock will end up being Black Adam. I feel like enough time
Well, he's
has
been
passed.
associated with that character for so long that I'm just like, you guys aren't moving at all on this property.
Yeah. Well, I
Like,
mean
why
that,
would you
and
even
that
do
plays
it?
into the Ezra Miller thing of like having these actors on board for so long and not making any real movement on it,
and really just tying up their contracts more than anything else. It's, I mean,
especially
don't get
The
me wrong,
Rock.
Ezra's
The Rock
got
has a
some-
lot of irons in the fire.
Oh,
so
God, yeah.
more than Ezra Miller, I can see him being like, all right,
It's like either put this in production or just fuck off because I got Ballers, I got this, I got like all this.
yeah.
Like
I've got Fast and Furious and Hobbs and Shaw and Jumanji.
Yep.
And then whatever war vet saves people movie I want to do next.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on. He can do whatever he wants. And the fact that you're right though, I don't see him being Black Adam. At the end of the day, I just think it's the clause or whatever. It's just gonna not be able to do it. But yeah,
Yeah. So that's
Shazam.
I feel like we're missing something.
I don't think we are.
Okay.
It was not a memorable movie to me. I mean, like there's now that we're talking about because. In all fairness, too, I watched it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
What happened is that you might lose a bit of it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was never really going to be enthused about the movie. Anyways, it was not like I'm a big Shazam fan. I just like the idea of like Shazam interacting with the Justice League or something like that, and then like all of a sudden hitting puberty and like not being able to stop like being unable to control that puberty as like adult Shazam.
I think that is the one element of Shazam that I feel like won't translate well to screen is that he does grow up, but like in comics you can just constantly reset it, so he's just always 13. Yes. Or I guess in the comics he starts earlier. He's like 10.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point you are just going to start, and I guess they're going in this thing that he is Billy Batson. I guess that's supposed to be what he looks like when he grows up. Yes. Whereas in some versions, it's his memory of his father.
Yes.
That's what he's turning into. So it wouldn't really matter what he looks like when he switches. But if they are saying this is what he's going to look like, because I think that's the idea with all the other kids.
Right.
If that's just him turning into what he looks like as an adult, yeah, it will. If you keep doing it with movies, then let's say you were very popular. Yeah. It would get awkward by like Shazam 7. Yeah.
I hope there's not a Shazam 7. I mean, like,
but yeah,
I guess movie
guess
franchises that can go to 7 and still have fresh air in it. Not a lot.
Fast and Furious, baby.
That's not a lot, but there are those out there like Police Academy.
No,
I
don't know. I haven't watched any.
I've only watched one, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe this got so many sequels.
No, you're right. There's not a lot that can go to 7, so that's not really a worry for them, I guess. But I just think that you wouldn't, as a business, go into it being like, yeah, that's fine. This will probably blow up after 3 movies, so we won't have to worry about that.
3 movies max, and then the 3rd movie probably is the Black Adam thing, if it ever happens. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm sure they'll do Black Adam. I don't know who Black Adam will be.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Rating time.
7.
Yeah, not far off from me. I gave it 7.5.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, I like it just as much as Captain Marvel.
I like Captain Marvel more, obviously.
Yeah.
But this movie to me is just like, it's not offensive. It's tracking right. It's doing a course correction from where DC was. It had a movie that had more to prove, and I was tied up with that more than the actual movie itself. Because now that we talk about the movie itself, there's a lot more that I like about it.
It would be hard to like come out of that movie being like that sucked. I don't
think anyone could say it.
I think that's what's good about it is that they have created a situation where people will enjoy their time spent with it.
Yes, but I mean, my thing is to say that it's good. I think has to be attached with an asterisk to be like it's good for a DC film. Like years later, when DC does figure out where it's supposed to go and how to figure out and all, and successfully crosses over and all that kind of stuff, then what we're going to say is, does Shazam end up at the top of the crop? And that argument is no. The more DC movies come out, the more dilute that whole pot becomes. Shazam's not going to come close.
Well, I disagree, but I think that's, you clearly didn't like it, but you just thought it's better than the other thing. Whereas I think it is good. It's just not the best.
Stellar.
It's not my favorite thing I've ever seen. I do think that it is a solid because
it's solid.
It plays on the 80s nostalgia that people would have because it is built like an 80s movie. Like
it is.
They're not set in the 80s. It's not, but it has the same.
The thing that threw me off about this too. Sorry to cut you off. The Christmas theme behind this. I don't get it. Why? I mean, if this movie,
I did not walk away from that movie being like that was Christmas themed. It was set at that time, but it didn't play into it. It wasn't like, oh man, he's got to find like a Christmas present at the end or anything.
No, it wasn't like that. But it's just like, to me, I'm like,
why
would the release date here unless, why make it that winter theme when it's I don't get it. It was just weird to me. Whatever.
I think this is like when you worry that the Joker is going to be part of the. It seems like a non-issue to me.
For most people, it's a non-issue. For me, it definitely bothered me. Because I just don't like Christmas.
I know, but I didn't really feel like they hit home on Christmas stuff.
It's true.
You just reminded me that they're at Santa's
I think the only thing that it
end.
adds to is just like the whole, he wants to be with his family, and it is Christmas, and he's seeing all these other families and all that kind of stuff. But I mean,
again, that last meal
that.
didn't even really look like it was at Christmas when they nailed that home. Again, that's all I'm saying is it's a place to have fun things, see explode, and they can have the Santa Claus thing, which ties in throughout the movie, but also gives Darla a moment. Yeah. It just didn't feel like that was their point, like the way other movies have really hung their hat on Christmas.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This was just like a visual that's cool.
Mm-hmm. True. Cool. 7.
Yeah.
Still 7.
7.5, baby.
Stay tuned next week where we talk about Hellboy.
All right.
And
sorry, I got to say this part. Please go to thatshelf.com where you can see all the other podcasts like Bad Gay Films that just started, Black Hole Films. No, Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films. No Budget Nightmares. Highly Logical. Yeah, Movies versus Matrimony. There's other ones. You should listen to them. They're all great.
Yep.
And if you're looking for other episodes of this beyond, I don't remember when we joined, somewhere around 61. So if you're looking for the episodes before that, then you should go to tdferything.com/spoiledrotten. You'll be able to find our social media coordinates, our email if you want to get in touch with us and talk about the show. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next time.
Yep. About Hellboy.
Yeah.
And
bye-bye.
then, bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.